See how this goes. I'm not even going to go up into the main PowerPoint. I think that's big enough you can see what's going on. Alright guys, it's Thursday. You're listening to this or sometime after. I'm hoping it's Thursday though. And I'm going to take some time out of my night here and we're going to recap and fill some holes. Today is Tuesday and we did our Hearts of Iron video game guided discussion, and I know things went really quickly, so I'm just going to kind of go back over some of that and address some new things and throw some stuff at you, and hopefully you're having a good Thursday. We'll just start with old Adolf here. Now, we discussed it, but we're just going to go over it again real quick. Adolf is he's a World War I vet. He is a runner in World War I. He's wounded. He comes back. He's in disillusion and mad because he feels like the government betrayed him for giving up in World War I. He ends up joining a very conservative political group who sends him in as technically as a spy to spy on the Socialist Party, and he's paid for by the government to do so. When he goes in there, he actually ends up drinking a little bit too much of the Kool-Aid, joins the Socialist Party, ends up causing a bunch of upheaval, is arrested, thrown in jail. While in jail, he thinks about what's going on, and he writes a book called Mein Kampf. Mein Kampf means my struggle, and this book is really what gets him a platform to be able to get up in front of people and talk after he gets out of jail. He becomes somewhat of a political notoriety amongst this socialist group now that has now renamed itself as the National Socialist Party, and they've mirrored themselves after another political party in Italy underneath the guidance of Mussolini, and Hitler's rising to power now in this party in Germany that's looking towards Italy's party under Mussolini, right? Hitler looks up to Mussolini, basically. He uses these guys called brown shirts, which is a similar thing to what he's got on now. It's a political uniform, and they beat up and persecute their political opponents to the point that Hitler eventually makes his way into prominence, and his party grows, and they take a bunch of seats in parliament, and President Hindenburg is basically forced to make him chancellor, so he's like co-president. When Hindenburg dies, Hitler then assumes the title of Chancellor and President and makes a new title, the Führer. Die Führer. Or the leader is what it means in German. He mainly runs on this idea that Germany needs more growing room, that the problem they're having is they don't have the space and the resources to grow, and he calls this growing room or this living space Lebensraum. Lebensraum is what he talks about all the time. So they annex Austria, which are German. This is a city in Austria. They do it through a semi-coup, like Austria's okay with it, and they become part of the Greater German Reich, or German Reign. The Third Reich is what we called it. It's the third time they've reigned. And later on, he'll get the Sudetenland right here, or Sudetenland in Czechoslovakia. Right, it's a chunk of mountainous region around the Czech Republic, which doesn't exist yet, but it's Czechoslovakia. He ends up gaining the entirety of Czechoslovakia, except for Slovakia, which he makes into a republic, but it's basically a satellite state underneath Germany. This whole time this is going on, 1938 leading into 1939, Germany signs a non-aggression pact with the Soviet Union. This is Ribbentrop and Molotov. They're diplomats. And here's Stalin. Oh, good old Stalin. So they sign a non-aggression pact. Stalin's elated about this. He's like, good. I don't got to worry about those crazy Germans invading me. We could just worry about expanding our own territory, and they can do their thing in Europe, and we'll all live happily ever after. And there's also the idea of doing this is knowing that Russia has got a non-aggression pact, Great Britain won't bother with Germany's adventures in Europe. Hopefully, is the idea. And at the same time, between Molotov and Ribbentrop, they discussed the idea of splitting Poland between the Soviet Union and Germany. And actually, fun fact is that this discussion of splitting Poland started immediately after World War One, long before Molotov or Ribbentrop or Hitler or Stalin. In fact, it was, I don't know why people don't even address that, but it occurred long before that. So this idea was long in the making. I guess we could point out that Poland is a new country. Poland is made out of World War One, and they feel like Germany feels like it should be partly theirs, and Russia feels like it should be partly theirs, and that Poland shouldn't have its own nationality. So when September 1st rolls around and it's 1939 and Germany invades into Poland, it's a quick shock to everyone. But yet, not so much a shock, because they're like, oh, well, there go them Germans invading Poland. And Great Britain had warned them. They're like, hey, you do that, we're going to go to war with you. And so, lo and behold, Germany invades Poland because they don't care. They don't think Great Britain can really do anything. So Great Britain declares war on them. France and Great Britain had just signed months before an alliance. And so France, then backing Great Britain, then declares war on Germany. And now we have the start of World War II. The technical start is September 1st, 1939. Arguably, it could be said to have done when Japan invades China in July of 1937. Poland falls in 45 days. It's a quick victory. They don't really have that great of tanks. Their infantry is still antiquated or old. It's still using World War I equipment. There are stories about these Polish hussar horsemen that charged the German tanks. Semi-true, semi-not. Yeah, that's the invasion of Poland. It's over in 45 days, guys. It's quick. So quick. I got asked about this. Why wasn't France invading Germany while they were invading Poland? Well, they did. What they have here is this red line here is the Maginot Line. The Maginot is a series of fortifications and bunkers and cannons and things. It's also in a valley with a river and mountainous. Ain't nobody walking through there with their head on their shoulders. Like, it's just not a thing. Germany's not that stupid. And France, while Germany is invading Poland, does actually push out into the countryside right through here, right by Luxembourg, right up. I mean, they get quite a ways up into here. But the French army, being in this defensive doctrine, right? They just came out of World War I. They don't want to fight no war. They're in a very defensive ideology. They tell their men, hey, just pull back because, we want to protect our line. We got the Maginot. They ain't going to go across it. They're not crazy. Just pull back. So they pull them all back. Germany finishes up with Poland and redirects its army. Puts some troops up by Denmark, and then puts the rest on the Maginot Line, and then actually ends up putting some people. I can't move up there. Actually puts people on the Dutch, the Netherlands border here, and the Belgian border, and the Luxembourg border, and the world waits. And they actually wait all winter long, and this is called the Phony War. It occurs between late October, early November, all the way into like March, April of the following year in 1940. And basically, we got a little bit of aerial combat going on between France and Germany. You got some stuff going on in the North Sea between the German fleet and the British fleet. And lots of people moving troops around. And kind of just everybody sitting and waiting and wondering what the Germans are going to do next. This is a look at the Maginot. You could see these bunkers. Some of these walls are 3 or 4 feet thick of concrete. There's just no looking at it. These are actually American GIs. That's kind of funny. Look at him looking up here. He's like, oh my god, this is ridiculous. You see his little M67 grenade, his little tanker goggles. That's pretty cool. He's looking at the Maginot like this is crazy. France. We talked about this. I don't know. We're kind of skipping ahead. I didn't make this PowerPoint. Oh, hold on. Let's look. Yeah, we don't have. Okay, let's go back here. Let's go back. I don't like that. We'll go to the fall of France. So we discussed how the Battle of France is literally the most successful battle in human history, just hands down. So what happens? Okay, You got troops here in Luxembourg, troops in Belgium, and right here is this forest called the Ardennes. Right, it goes kind of like along here and into here and up along the Meuse River. Actually, this might be the Meuse and the Rhine, and I don't remember, but it's in here, guys, right? And what they do is they just send their tanks through Luxembourg, through Belgium, cut around along this river, come across here, and go through all these mountains and crazy dense forests that nobody thought tanks or trucks could get through, and infantry on foot. Peg through the side of the Ardennes, hit a couple divisions of, like you see these little lines, of French troops who can't hold off the German panzer divisions, who like have literally pushed trees out of the way to get through here. And they just shove right through and come and curve this way, you know. The whole time the French, the French, the Belgian, the British Expeditionary Forces, this whole time during the Phoney War have actually pushed up into the Meuse. And that's what we're saying is the pinwheel. So here's the pin on the wheel. And, okay, let's see what we can do here to make this happen. Yeah. So you can see this right here. So here's our pin. So they push through here, right? And then they just go like this and curve on up, okay? And right in here, somewhere in this area, is where Dunkirk is. And this is where they catch the entire 400,000 troops of the British Expeditionary Force, the Belgians, the French, all of them are encircled right here. They cut them off from everybody else. It is terrible. Dire news. Ends up the British Expeditionary Force during the evacuation of Dunkirk is pulled out. This is somewhat of a contentious moment because why did the tanks stop? Well, it's either because Hitler wanted to be in control and didn't want Guderian and Manstein and Rommel to have all the glory, so he told them to wait because he was afraid that they would get cut off, so he's like, wait for the infantry, and then he can have control, say so, when they destroy the British Expeditionary Force. That's one narrative. I think that truly is one that's created by the West, so that way it looks like, haha, we snuck our BEF out and you were too late because you're arrogant and stupid. That's my opinion. It may not be that way. The other look of it is that Hitler truly thought that he could convince a politician in England by the name of Halifax, who almost became prime minister instead of Winston Churchill. He thought he could convince him to negotiate for peace and that Great Britain and Germany would no longer be at war with each other after France fell. I really think that's what happens. But it ends up, oh look, Miracle of Dunkirk. So we just discussed this. Okay, I'm sorry. This, like I said, not my PowerPoint. But yeah, 850 British private vessels. Generally speaking, most of them had British sailors on them, and they were private vessels, and they're just picking these guys up in lines, just sailing their fishing vessel or their yacht up there and picking them up. Ends up France gets occupied. Northern France becomes the occupation zone. Southern France becomes the free zone, and it's called Vichy France. And right here is the city of Vichy, is where they locate the capital. That's why it's called Vichy France. This area here is under Italian occupation after 1942 because, well, this area was not exactly behaving itself, and Italy was nervous. This big, thick red line here becomes what's called the Atlantic Wall. It is a series of fortifications that actually stretch all the way up through Belgium and Netherlands and Denmark and all the way up into Norway. It's a long distance, all the way down to neutral Spain. Very, very long distance worth of fortifications. And the idea is to keep the Brits and later the United States out and keep us from invading Europe. Okay, now we've occupied France. Germany's got Poland. By the way, in the meantime of taking out France and the phony war where nothing really was going on, some things did go on. Germany invades Denmark and takes Denmark in a matter of days without really a shot being fired because the Danish government was like, hey, army, just stand down, you're going to die. Don't worry about it. And then after that, they invade Norway and take Norway. It takes a little longer to get Norway because it's really long and mountainous. And the Brits actually do put up a bit of a fight in a place called Narvik. Let's see if we can look up at Narvik. How about that? Narvik. It's got a J in there. I don't know. I'm spelling that wrong. Norway, WW2, Narvik. Yeah, there we go. We found it. Yeah. Oh, that's a crummy map. Let's look at this place. Okay, so anyways, at Narvik, the British sent some commandos, and they're fighting in this port city of Narvik, right at the top part of Norway. Super important. It's important because of its location and how it cuts off in a valley and a mountain, and also there's this factory there, a series of factories in Narvik that are they're like fish oil factories. I know that sounds odd, but you can use the fish oil that's extracted there in explosives and ammunition. It's high in nitrogen. So that's what they're after there. The commandos end up blowing it up. It's quite a battle between the commandos and the German Wehrmacht, which is the German army. They use little destroyers and like supply trolleys and stuff to do their landing there. It's kind of crazy. It's the only amphibious landing really that the Germans ever really do, and it goes okay. The commandos do put up quite a fight, and it's actually featured in a video game. I was trying to see if I could find the picture, but I don't see it anymore. Oh, right there. Yeah, it's featured in Battlefield 5. It's really a pretty good map. So yeah, that's Narvik. Okay. So after all this stuff's done, and Germany seems to be settling in and building their Atlantic Wall, and they're also invading Yugoslavia and Greece, and there's a lot going on. They begin doing this thing with Britain, where they start sending fighters and bombers to bomb British airstrips, and mainly it starts out as airstrips first. And this is in an attempt to preemptively get ready to invade Great Britain during what's called Operation Sea Lion. Operation Sea Lion never happens, but it's put in the works. Like they're gathering barges, they're welding them together. The Germans are getting ready to go across the English Channel and actually invade mainland Great Britain. It's crazy. So this all ensues in what's called the Battle of Britain during 1940. And what it ends up kind of going awry for the Germans is first they're bombing the airstrips, and they're about to annihilate the Royal Air Force, or the RAF, right? These guys in this picture, in their Rolls-Royce Spitfires is what these are, and it's fixing to happen. Like the Luftwaffe under Göring is so close to destroying them, and the Brits are really trying to do like a good management of their aircraft. They're using a new technology called radar. They're using it much more effectively than Germany or the Soviet Union, the United States, France, anybody. The Brits are on top of it. They not only have the radar there and a radar station to detect people, but they have a central command center with intelligence officers, and they're mixing all the intelligence, mapping it out in real time, communicating it quickly. It's quite the network. And they know just how many fighters to send where and how many to hold in reserve. They've got a whole system. And about this time, some British bombers kind of go off course and accidentally bomb a German town. I forget which German town it is. Maybe it's in the next slide. It doesn't say which one. Okay, loser, whoever made this. Anyways, they accidentally bomb the wrong town. The British bombers do. And Hitler gets mad. He tells Göring, listen, I need you to go bomb London, basically. He's like, go straight for London. I think it might have been Berlin they accidentally bombed. I'm not sure. And Göring says, no, I don't think that's a good idea. Like, we've got him on the ropes. If we change targets now, it's not going to work out well. And Hitler, in his fury, does one of his first stupid mistakes and tells him to go bomb London. Which, how he tells him to go bomb London is kind of, that's another thing. It's like, it does seem like he just kind of wanted him to sort of do it, not like go all out, and Göring goes crazy. He diverts all of his bombers, all of his aircraft off of the airfields, and he starts bombing London. Night bombings, constantly, because at nighttime, the aircraft's safer than during the day, because during the day they can be spotted and shot at with anti-aircraft guns, right? So they go at night, and they bomb every night, all the time. It ends up like 175 days out of 360. Nah, maybe it's more like 275 days out of 365. I can't remember. It's quite a bit. Most of the year, nightly bombings constantly over London, and it just turns into this thing. And yeah, it just wrecks London. They end up having to evacuate a lot of the population. All the kids are sent out in the countryside, which is what this picture's about. It's devastating, but it happened at such a crucial moment that the RAF was able to get some rest and rebuild up its fighter squadrons, and now it's back up in action. And now they're fighting over London every night, and they're winning. They're taking down more aircraft than the Germans have the ability to rebuild. It's such a crucial stepping stone for them. These poor kids who lived through this whole ordeal. I mean, people talk about it like adults in their 60s now. They're like, oh yeah, in the 1950s we had to go through atomic bomb drills and like duck our heads underneath the desk. And I mean, that's not cool. It's slightly terrifying. But can you imagine being... These are the 65 and 70-year-olds now in England, in Great Britain. They're like, no, I didn't duck my head under my desk, dude. I got in a trench. I got in a slit trench outside of my classroom. You know what I mean? And then they all get evacuated out in the countryside because, I mean, the devastation is just... This is one of those red double-decker buses. Not cool. Winston Churchill is the new Prime Minister of England. He's literally sworn into office because Chamberlain's kicked out the day that Germany invades Poland. And I'm not kidding. It is the day of. Talk about bad luck. And he's just caught on his back foot the whole time. And he's a controversial character. I'll tell you right now, I'm a big Winston Churchill fan. But there's a large population that's not. In particular, right now with the Black Lives Matter movement, they'll call him an English racist bigot, and there's a lot of people who want to tear down his statue. I'm not at liberty to tell you how I feel about that, but I can tell you that he is the father of England at this point. The man he's the best orator in history. I mean, and I'm dead serious. I'm comparing him even with Shakespeare. Shakespeare could write a play, but this guy could talk, and he gives speeches. I don't have like the time to really sit here and like listen to a speech. Like, I mean, you can look it up. I just look this quote up. Look up a speech. In fact, here, okay, we'll do this. I feel better about myself if I do this. Darkest hour. Winston Churchill. Yeah. Okay. Look these up. I mean, ugh.
John Nicholson, it is of the greatest importance to this eye.
Oh my God. He's having this whole argument about what to do.
The Germans must not reach the sea.
Yeah,
not
see?
before.
This is Dunkirk.
We get our boys off of that bloody beach.
Oh my God.
I take full responsibility.
Really?
Really? Yes, sir.
This guy is... Oh, God. This is Halifax, and he's in the opposition. He wanted to be prime minister, but he didn't want to be prime minister right then because he didn't want to get blamed for all this stuff, so he wanted someone else to be the fall guy. He didn't think it was going to be Churchill, and the cards luckily struck on Churchill, and he gives this speech, the darkest hour speech. Let me tell you guys.
When an absolute guarantee against
We got a
invasion
minute. Why not?
could have been given to our people.
Let's get ahead here.
Of war,
Here it is.
and to outlive the menace of tyranny, if necessary, for years, if necessary, alone. At any rate, that is what we are going to try to do. That is the resolve of His Majesty's government.
This is his wife, Miss Churchill. She's doing some PR pictures because he just got elected. This is King George VI. He's the King of England. He's the son of King George V. He has a lisp. He dies of smoke cancer, and his daughter is Queen Elizabeth II, the current Queen of England.
Good comrades, to the utmost of their strength. even though large tracts of Europe and many old and famous states have fallen or may fall into the grip of the Gestapo and all the odious apparatus of the Nazi rule, we shall not flag or fail. We shall go on to the end. We shall fight in France. We shall fight on the seas and oceans. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender!
That was Neville Chamberlain. That was the guy that was getting distraught. His assistant.
And if, which I do not for a moment believe, this island or large part of it were subjugated and starving, then our empire, we're on the seas, armed and guarded by the British fleet, would carry on the struggle until in God's good time, the new world, with all its power and might, steps forth to the rescue and the liberation of the old.
Okay, you guys can finish off. That part just, I want to go outside, put my bayonet on my rifle, and like charge at something. I don't know. I want to do it with like tears in my eyes because that means something to me. He says that the new world shall step forth in the deliberation of the old. What does he mean by that? The United States of America will pick up the banner and come forth and save Europe. Now, I've said it and said it again that I think Russia could have finished this war out on its own without our help, possibly. It's very un-American of me to say that. And I don't really mean it like it's un-American, to be honest with you. I'm just stating a fact. However, let's not put aside the fact that we put up one hell of a fight. Now, after this, we're supposed to go into Barbarossa in this PowerPoint, but we're not going to. I want to save Barbarossa for next week. And I think that pretty well covers everything in these PowerPoints. I do have, however, oh yeah, here we go. This is what I wanted to go on about. That's what, okay. So, you're gonna have some assignments for today and Thursday. That is 2 days from now, because this is Tuesday for me. But you'll have some assignments that are gonna pair with this, and I haven't quite worked out what the details are, so I can't tell you just yet. What I do know is what the premise is that you're going to get to pick from a rubric of assignments, just like you've done on Wednesday tomorrow, or the day before when you're listening to this. And you're going to have like a selection to pick from. One of the topics will be women in World War II. And I don't know if anyone's aware of this, but 5 million women enter the workforce at this point because the men are off fighting in war. That doesn't mean, though, that there aren't women involved. In fact, women end up, where are we? Yeah, women do this thing. They go into these things called auxiliary branches. And there's one for every branch of the military in the United States. There is WAC, or Women's Army Corps. I think it's called the WAC, to be honest with you, because WAC sounds funny. WAVES is actually one, though. It's Women Accepted for Volunteer Emergency Service, and that's for the United States Navy. I'm very familiar with WAVES because while I was in the Navy, it doesn't exist now, but it was just something that interested me while I was in the Navy. And I've met some ladies who were in WAVES, and they were remarkable, absolutely remarkable. Then you have the women's Air Force service pilots. That does sound like that these women are for the Air Force, but there actually is no United States Air Force at this point. There's the United States Army Air Corps. So the Air Force doesn't exist, so don't write me any paper or any sort of thing where you talk about the Air Force, because I will mark you off. It's the United States Air Corps. They're underneath the United States Army, and these women are service pilots and WASP. They're not flying any fighter craft or anything like that, or any bombers, but they do fly logistical aircraft and things like that, and transport planes. I think they might even have some that did fly scouting planes, maybe. I'm not sure. See, they were restricted from combat zones. Then you have a lot of women that work as nurses and help injured men in combat. Big deal there. Very helpful. We can look at World War II, the United States home front, for just a little second here. You'll get this again in U.S. history, but I just want to mention it. So you got some minorities fighting. The African Americans, which we're going to look at here in a minute. Some things going on there. You have the Japanese, who are on the West Coast, who, because of Japan going to war with the United States in Pearl Harbor, they're put in these things called internment camps here in the United States. They're basically taken to like football fields and public parks and wired up and put in shacks, just like the Jewish population in Europe. Not near as severe. They're just put there under guard because they're not trusted. But it's still not okay. It's just not like, I don't want you to think that it's like the concentration camps. It's internment camps. So they're, I don't know. They're like, we'll look at them on another point in pictures. Let's see here. This all comes out of an executive order 9066 given by FDR. Very controversial. It's put up in the Supreme Court in Karematsu versus the United States government. Let's see here. We have war rationing and wartime production, because this time, not like World War I, but this time, this is World War II, the United States goes into total war, okay? So the entire economy is adjusted and fixed on the fighting in the war front. This is where the U.S. does that. And we have rationing in the United States with rationing coupons. Wartime production, where like companies like Ford, General Motors, Chevy, they stop making trucks and cars and start making tanks. The Shermans. You have people that they make victory gardens, which are like just a little garden out in their backyard so that they can grow their own produce and grow produce for others who can't, so that way they're not pulling away from the national supply of vegetables and fruit. And that pairs up with rationing. Then you also have people buying what are called war bonds, which are basically the U.S. government says, hey, if you give us money now, say whatever it is, we'll arbitrarily call it $50 for this war bond. I'll give you $55 later in the future after we won the war. And then you get the Office of War Information, or the UWI. These guys become the first statistical office in the U.S. military history. They pick up their notes from people like Poland, the United Kingdom, kind of France, mainly the United Kingdom and Poland, who are having like intelligence officers who gather statistical data and use that to analyze the military and make it better. We'll really see the Office of War Information come into play, and well, I won't be here, but if you guys get a chance to talk about Vietnam under Westmoreland, you're going to hear about that a lot. Yeah, women go into the workforce. They become Rosie the Riveter. Is the thing. Rosie the Riveter. Yeah, love this picture. What a gal, right? Rosie the Riveter. Okay. So something else to come out of here is the Montgomery GI Bill. I guess this is the only page I have for that. The Montgomery GI Bill is a thing passed by Congress where GIs returning from World War II get money to go to school, like myself. I used not the Montgomery GI Bill, I used the post 9/11 GI Bill, which is the newer one. And that's how I'm able to pay for my college and be here talking to you guys. It ends up changing the world. In the United States, we have a bunch of people who, generally speaking, were laborers and unskilled workers, go into the military. then they get some skills, they come back, they have this money, they go to school, and now we have a huge middle class skilled workforce that creates the 1950s, that creates the golden age. And I say golden age with quotation marks because it's the golden age for the white population, to be honest with you. These guys have a struggle. And that's what I kind of want to hit on with this bit, is that they get denied lots of the GI Bill benefits. One thing that happens is that they get this money from the GI Bill to be able to buy, it's a veteran's home loan, which is how I'm on my third or fourth house now, and I've used the VA loan twice. And they're denied that. Or when they are given the loan through the VA, they're given it to only live in certain places, and it's called redlining. And we see that these population of African American veterans are coming home, and they're not allowed to live in the nice neighborhoods. They have to live in the not so nice neighborhoods. I'd like you guys to look into that if you pick this. If you pick the women's thing, you can look into WAVES, you can look into WAC or WASP and look what they do. That's what I'm getting at there. Yeah, here's the GI Bill part. Now, this is what I used. Okay. I think that is all I have for you guys today. So, that was 36 minutes. Good. And I'll put up an assignment with this. The assignment that I'm putting up will probably be due at the same time the Wednesday one is due. So you guys will just have the weekend to work on both the Wednesday one and this Thursday one. And it'll be due Monday at the start of class. So if you email it, you turn it in to Canvas, whatever the case may be, it is due at the start of class. And I didn't get any emails from anybody today at 5 o'clock. I'll address that again tomorrow, but just a reminder that, I don't know why it matters that I'm reminding you on Thursday. All right, guys, have a great weekend. I love talking to you guys, and I have no problem doing this at nighttime. It's 11 o'clock at night. I'm about to go play some video games. I hope you guys have a great weekend. I'll see you on Monday. I don't think I did that right. Did I? Did we stop recording? Oh, of course not. I sound like an idiot. How do I stop recording? That screenshot. Where? Oh, God. Oh, there it is. Stupid me. Okay, have a good weekend. Holy crap, I'm an idiot.